citizen to hear. I mean, they're way off in the corner. I chose a higher chair. I suppose we could not get criticized for moving a chair. See the trouble you caused? And then I tip your camera over.
We'll get it working here.
I can put that in. No, if I, in your picture, you tell me to duck down. No. If I stand up and yell at me.
Together a little background, a memo in regards to why the rationale for creating common commitments as a board. I'm not going to read this to you. I know you have had an opportunity to review it, but I just want to kind of highlight these top 5 reasons for creating these rules of engagement, how we're going to interact at the board table. First is enhancing communication and collaboration, increasing efficiency of our meetings and productivity, fostering respect and professionalism, supporting transparency and accountability, providing consistency and structure, and it's just a best practice that high-performing school boards have. If you look across the state or our country, you'll notice that the most effective boards do create these types of common commitments. They may be called meeting norms or board norms, or rules of engagement. There's all kinds of different names. I like common commitment because we're committing to do this together. So I'm going to pull this up and Corey, I don't know. Do you want to run my computer for me?
Sure.
So I just want to get you thinking a little bit. We had a chance to look at this, and I don't know how much thought people were able to put in, but what are our common commitments as a board? What are they? Obligations to each other? That's good. To the team? That's good.
Do what's best for the kids. People and families need to work together to achieve the goals we put forward.
That's, yeah, good. You want to highlight those, Corey, please? So everybody, you guys are right. Just the standards that we agree that we're going to follow. I'm not going to create these. You guys are going to create these. I'll give you some examples that you can use as reference. And it's how we expect ourselves and others to behave at our meetings. So why do we want to create them? Or do you wanna create them? Do we wanna create them? Collaborate better? Okay,
It helps foster a harmonious environment, and make people feel open to share
okay,
their viewpoint, and then, let the other folks listen and take in, and actively listen, so respond to the questions, and that's a way of setting ground rules for how we all contribute toward a common goal, whatever that is.
perfect. It's a better answer than what I had here. Can you unhighlight those for us? So yeah, establishing our expectations so that everybody understands, so they're clear, these basic ground rules, and it's best practice. So Corey, if you scroll up here, these are some policies that I found that are pretty basic and elementary, and we don't have to go through them, the links are there, so when, at your convenience, you can go through and read them. But this particular one, policy 144.5, board member behavior communications, and look at that, it's working. It wasn't supposed to do that.
Touch the easy button.
Yeah.
On the side there. Now you can just
Clear off.
Look at this, I'm learning tonight. All kinds of good stuff. So yeah, this policy, I took this language from this policy. So it talks about integrity, it talks about honesty, truthfulness in all manners dealt with by the board, treating others with respect and dignity, maintaining decorum and civility in our interactions, encouraging free expression of opinions by all of us. We all have a voice. No private action that will compromise the board or administration. Of course, respect confidentiality. Be familiar with and comply with our policies, including policies governing board member conduct, board member ethics, and rules of compatibility of office, conflicts of interest. If we scroll up here. So, what are the characteristics? It's kind of like being a good team player. If you were on a volleyball team or a baseball team, football, basketball, what are some of the characteristics, and Corey, you can type these in when they share, what are some of the characteristics on the teams that you've been on where you had some good team players on there? I mean, some teams we may not always, but usually every team I'm on, there are some great team players. What are the characteristics of
Respect. Everyone respects one another, they help one another, they listen to everyone, they get solicit input from everybody so they get together. And seek to understand. So we might not always agree on everything, but having a full understanding of why someone is in agreement, puts context to it, helps us understand. And we also need to respect, goes back to number one, respect everybody else's opinions and thoughts. Just like we want to be respected. Goes back to the golden rule.
Yeah. Any other ideas? These are all great. What are some other characteristics of good team players?
Share a common goal,
Share a common goal. Yeah,
or common goals.
common goals. We want to win on the basketball team. We want to make as many points as we can. Here, we want to do what's best for kids, for our organization.
I think supporting one another.
Supporting one another. I got your back.
Honestly.
Honesty.
Honestly.
Yep.
I would say, being helpful, being kind when, things are not going well. So making sure that you can lift others up when things are not going your way or things are just not going well.
Mm-hmm. If others are having a hard time, you're there to console them with empathy and lift them up and give them the confidence that they need.
Encouragement, encouraging one another. So for example, in this board, if somebody is trying to work on a policy for the betterment of the school district,
situational leadership
comes
yeah.
into play, so if there's, somebody on the team, for whatever reason, is unavailable, that somebody can step up and take that role.
Okay.
and run with it.
Yeah. Good. Anything else you guys can think of?
Trust.
Trust,
Mhm.
it's a good one.
Ethics.
Trust, ethics, transparency.
Servant leadership.
Good, I like that.
Integrity.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay, so some of this is very, you guys are participating very well. If you weren't, we'd probably go through this question, but I don't think we have to. Individual behaviors, oh, this one's prohibiting. So what would be, let's do this question. What behaviors or fears or attitudes would prohibit teamwork? What are some of those practices, behaviors, attitudes, fears that would prohibit teamwork?
People putting up walls.
Putting up walls. Okay.
Poor communication.
What was that?
Poor communication.
Or communication?
And that means it's a two-way street. What is said is heard and not understanding one another. So, like I said before, hearing to understand somebody, people jump to conclusions, and they don't really understand what someone's saying, what their comments are. So seek to understand. It's just, we need to communicate.
Yeah, it's easy to jump to conclusions. I'm hearing some things that I may not clearly understand. And as a human being, sometimes I may want to jump to the negative conclusion, and I could be way off. Yeah, good one.
Not assume positive intent, so assume negative.
Assuming negative intent. You want to, I always try to assume positive intent. And sometimes people call me a Pollyanna, but I really want to live by that I'm going to assume the positive of whatever that they were intending to do. Good.
I'm gonna go with contradiction to intent. Contradicting what someone is trying to move forward with. This will go back to they don't agree with what you have to say. And I see that a lot in some of my emails, there's a contradiction to any email that I sent. So we always get kicked back with that email saying, oh, why are we doing this, why are we doing that? So there's a contradiction.
Contradicting a team player, okay? Anything else?
I would say spreading negativity among the district.
Spreading negativity. Not being honest. Lack of honesty. What do you think would be a good strategy if I think one thing and another person thinks another thing? I think I'm right and my colleague thinks they're right. How should we handle that? If I think I'm right on something and my colleague thinks they're right, let's say Bob and I are in the admin team together and I'm thinking about a certain policy or a certain initiative, and I think I'm right and Bob disagrees, but he thinks he's right. What would be the best way for Bob and I to work through that? What would be the ideal way? We as human beings, we come to this with all this baggage that we carry from our life and our experiences and our biases that we develop over time. So I'm coming with this messiness about me. And then Bob maybe, I don't know if Bob is like this, but
Yeah, well, Bob's saying, why are you picking on me?
Bob comes with his experiences and traumas and all the things that he's gone through in life, and he may be having a bad day too. and we're not agreeing. What's the best way that, for us to work that out?
Discussion, get together, ask questions, understand, again, seek to understand one.
Seek to understand.
And clarifying, asking clarifying questions. So what I hear you say is this, help me understand that. Just simple statements can be misconstrued in so many different ways. And we'll just rush to judgment without fully understanding the scope of everything the other person is trying to get through. So a lack of understanding or being able to communicate well can cause a lot of conflict and disagreement. And if you're looking at what individual behavior steers prohibit teamwork, because the poor communication skills, absolutely.
Good. Anything else to add, team, before we move on?
It's just settling on a medium ground and moving on.
Say that again.
Settle on a medium ground or meaningful terms and move on to the next project. It doesn't take to drag things out over and over and over again, especially when there's negativity or misunderstanding communication. Find a mutual ground, move on.
Find that common
Find a common
ground,
common ground.
what we agree on. And it's important, like Jeff had mentioned, if that did happen with Bob and I would be asking questions. And in the back of my mind, I'd be saying, I could be wrong. And so I really need to understand where he's coming from and learn from him and learn by asking a lot of questions, how he came to that conclusion. Good. So this is what this one's about. What type of common commitments would work for us, the Wrightstown Community School District Board Governance Team? So let's just quickly click on this for me, Corey. Just as an example, we did this as an admin team. At our first admin meeting, we came up with our own common commitments, doing the same activity that we're doing right now. And the team said, well, I guess that was my contribution, start on time, end on time. Another was, technology is accessible to us, but it isn't going to interrupt us. Issues pop up in the buildings because most of these meetings are taking place in the district office. You got principals from the different 3 buildings, so they have to have their phones ready because issues pop up, as long as they're still engaged in the conversation. Keep the technology available for them. Agenda shared ahead of time with links to whatever the topics are that we're discussing and having a running agenda. Students always come first. That's what's really grounding us in our decisions, that we're going to talk in a way and we're going to make decisions in a way that the kids come first. What we talk about here stays here. Because a lot of times as an administrative team, we're talking about controversial things. We're talking about things that are going to happen in the future. It could be budgetary, it could be personnel, it could be staffing. You'll see one is later in the agenda, a proposed new position that we're bringing forward. Willing to have difficult conversations that are personal. So if Bob and I do have that disagreement, that we're both willing to come together and sit at the table, whether it's with everybody or separately, and try to work through it, and not to take it personal. It's something that's taken me a long time, and I still work on it. It's easy to take things said personal, but I think you rise to a higher level of professionalism when you're able to set that aside. And he's not really talking about me, we're talking about an idea here. It isn't about me and my power struggle or my ego. It's an idea. And I'm not talking about Bob's person or his ego. It's about that idea. And having a collaborative team focused on a growth mindset, that we're willing to learn, we're willing to hear the other side and grow. So that's what we came up with. So you can go back now, Corey, please. So if we need it, I have some example ones if we need it. But you guys really laid out a lot of positive things that could be used as your common commitments. Okay? Do you want to look at some that were other examples?
Sure.
Okay. So I just did a search and I copied and pasted and plugged in. So you know, some other school districts, other boards that's what I was trying to say. Challenge the ideas, not the person. Assume positive intent. We talked a little bit about that. Share what you're thinking with the group during the meeting, not to individuals afterwards. How many people have ever been in a meeting and after the meeting, in the hallway, if it's a staff meeting, or in the parking lot, there's a meeting after the meeting? That's what that's talking about. We don't need to have meetings after the meeting. If you're going to talk about it, bring it up. Let's talk about it at the table. Encourage all group members to share their thoughts and opinions. We don't want people not engaged. We want everybody participating in the conversation because it's a team. It's all 7 of you, me, I'm the 8th person. I'm part of the team, but I don't vote. I'm just your counselor. I'm your guide. I'm your advisor. Listen with curiosity to what everybody has to say. We all come with a different perspective, priorities that bring depth to the conversation. Active listen. Another way of saying it, be an active listener with an open mind. Be open to new ways of thinking. Board member accountability to the entire school district supersedes any loyalty a member may have with another advocacy group or interest group. Respect each other's ideas, contributions, to be respectful. Listen actively, speak politely, even when disagreeing, maintain confidentiality, getting into some things we've already talked about. One conversation at a time. No side talk, no interrupting. Start on time, end on time, resolve conflicts constructively. We lead with one voice, support and not undermine decisions reached by the board. So we don't want to be in this us versus them type of mentality. Be present with your team, put away your devices, try to be engaged, challenge past assumptions, no sacred cows. You know, in some places there are these sacred cows that you don't want to talk about that topic. And there shouldn't be a sacred cow. Come to our meetings prepared, ready to engage. Everyone is responsible for upholding our commitments and acknowledge if you notice that we're not doing so. And I tell my team, hey, if I'm breaking one of our norms, please let me know. I really want to know because I want to be the best I can be. And I'm human. I'm going to screw up. I'm going to make mistakes. So tell me so I can make an adjustment. I'm not going to react in a negative way. I'm going to be appreciative and thankful that somebody has the courage to tell me, hey, Ron, you're breaking that norm. You're on your phone and we're all engaged here. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You got me back on the track here. So go back now, Corey, please. So those are some examples. We talked about a whole bunch of things. Let's throw things on the board. We'll just throw them all up there. And then what we can do is start looking for commonalities and finding a way, you know, let's say one is be respectful. Well, you can say be respectful in 10 different ways. Well, if it's multiple times, we'll just kind of wordsmith it into something more simple. Jeff?
I think you should add humility up there, because I find, I'm gonna look at myself, and sometimes I get a little bit too prideful, right? And humility over pride. Remember that nobody is perfect, right?
Right.
And have some humility when you're making a mistake, when you're wrong, ask for forgiveness. Sometimes it's very difficult for people because you're so prideful that they don't just say, hey, I made a mistake, instead they'll lash out. And that's just a personal thing for me. Just remembering humility over pride, I think, is very important. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody jumps to conclusions or makes decisions that they later regret. But don't be afraid to share it with other people. On the board, for example, when we're working with one another, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. And I think what bonds us together and our ultimate goal here is to do the best we can for our students. If we can maintain focus on that, we can forgive one another. Absent that type of an attitude, it makes it very difficult when people become very prideful. Because no one's perfect. And so if we all can remember that and we can ground ourselves in why we're here, why we decided to be here. This isn't an easy job. But we have to find some sort of common ground. And I just think that's one thing that centers me, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate Appreciate that, thank you, Jeff. What are some other common commitments that we can share that you have for your idea that would be a good one for us?
I would say that there's no enemies at the table, that there's just differences, so having productive discussions. You know, going back to not taking things personal and being able to have a productive discussion. Using that in mind that said that there are no enemies, there's differences. We have to figure out how to agree to disagree, without creating some type of action that could impact our board even more.
Good. Any other ideas you guys have?
Following a consistent, template for Robert's Rules of Order, so everybody knows what to expect. Traditionally, we've, didn't make motions to move on from one agenda item to another, which really confused me. It was always just a motion and a second to vote on items, so there was no discussion time. So people would interrupt to be able to discuss.
Okay.
And I've never witnessed that in my years of working for the government, watching public hearings. So, and I know you're gonna make some recommendations and changes, from what I understand, but allowing people to speak, because if every person on the table can't speak during an agenda item, you're gonna be people in the community who feel alienated, that they don't have a voice in the table. There's always gonna be people in agreement or disagreement, or might always agree, or we all agree on something, but the community needs to know, hey, there's somebody there, who hears me. And I think it's really important, so fostering this discussion by following the proper framework of Robert's Rules of Order, I think will go a long way to, for our board,
Good
and
idea.
for the community as well.
Good idea, thank you.
I think, what the admin team had the very first time, and this is something I believe our board does extremely well, and that is we show up on time and we're prepared. And I believe that with every person on our board. They
Terrific.
come with the paper, you can see they're prepared, and they're on time. And you know, you're starting off on the right foot, it helps the meeting start without having to wait somebody, and literally I can count in the 7 months I've been on the board, maybe one or maybe 2 times out of our whole team where someone showed up a little bit late, and it was because of work or something like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a chronic thing, that we've all experienced in working in whatever field we're in. There's always one person who shows up late at every meeting, you know, and sometimes they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're doing it to, hey, I'm gonna make you wait because I think I'm that important, you know, and that's so bad. But honestly, our team does a really good job of showing up on time and showing up prepared.
Staying in your lane.
Staying in our lane.
Our job on the board should not flow over to administration.
Good. It's a great one. Yeah, because really, you think about it, the board is a governing body, their role is governance. The administration is tactical. So our role is taking the governance and the policies and implementing them. And then the staff's role is operational. And they're actually in the trenches doing that work for us. Good. Thank you.
I'm gonna say dedication to researching issues or agenda items, such as, like, for instance, what about their Title IX or Act 20 or other things, so that we have the understanding of what's going on and how it is, you know.
So educating ourselves about the
educating
topics.
ourselves, you know.
So more on what Mike said, I said, be prepared, and have the information in advance and ask questions, because you're here to answer questions. If a board member says, I don't know what this means, don't be afraid to ask. Utilize the superintendent or following the chain of command to get more information before meetings, so we're prepared.
Good. Good. you know, we wanna have under 10. What do we have here, 6?
Well, one thing I would say is that when recognition is due, I think we need to compliment and recognize people for their work. I think we kind of miss that, and other companies do that as well. You know, you get in the framework of always working, working more and trying to get things done, and we have a tendency to forget about that. So, you know, celebrating successes or just complimenting one another on things that, you know, someone took some time to do, I think would be really
Showing
important.
appreciation for work.
Yeah, I mean, we're all here for the same reason, so why not recognize those that, you know, contributing or have an idea or something. We need to have more of that, I think, in this team.
Good.
Following policies, procedures that we have in place.
Follow our policies and procedures. It's a good one.
I would add to it, don't take offense if somebody's asking why.
Yeah.
And be more prepared to understand the question and why we're asking,
Yeah.
are we following or not following policy at this point.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Or be open and honest, how do we uphold accountability to policy? And then also how, we follow policies and procedures, you know, I'm not trying to be negative, but how do we uphold them
As a board.
as a board when somebody's not following policy?
Well, you know, that's the next question down here that we're gonna get to. What do we do if we notice that we're not following, whether it's a policy or one of our commitments? How do we deal with that? What's the best way to address it? So, do you mind if we put that question down there?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it down there. Let's, see if we, so we've got about 9 right now. But I want everybody, Linda, I don't think I heard you yet. Do you have any ideas to add to this?
I just think overall, when people are sharing, there shouldn't be assumptions. Like, some of them on there, about people doing research, there shouldn't be an assumption that people haven't. So I think something important should be, like, you shouldn't be projecting your thoughts on other people.
Okay. So, what's the best way to word that? Don't assume or be judgmental of others? Okay. I like that. Thank you.
And nobody's judging me on you typing quick, just.
So, it goes back to what Rain and Mike says about policy. We have to understand policy. And when you read the policy, it has little legalese in there where it's written by lawyers. It sometimes can be difficult to understand. And asking for clarity on policy is very important. There are other resources out there that help you understand the policy. There's, it's a very difficult thing. It's one of the things the board is, one of our enumerated powers that we're responsible for is setting policy. But really understanding the full policy and the whole scope of it is very important. And WSB does a very good job of training board members on what does it mean, right? What does this actually mean? So going to like what happens when you break policy? Well, there's lots of different outcomes to that. It depends upon the policy, and it depends upon what was broken. There's lots of different repercussions to it. But for the most part, when you're talking about bylaws, for example, these are common commitments that we need to do together, and we need to hold ourselves accountable and everyone else accountable for following. But if there's a question, we go and talk to one another. Hey, are we doing this right? Are we doing this wrong? But in like what Melinda said, just don't make an assumption of
we interpret the policy might be different from another board member, and so that creates a discrepancy. And so there should be a communication or a meeting to discuss to make sure that we're, have the same understanding of what the interpretation of that policy is that could create conflict.
You know, it just reminds me a little bit, Rain, I don't want to put you on the spot, do you mind if, you know, the emails that you and I exchange, I don't even know if you saw my response. You did. Is that okay? Okay, so I sent out an email to the board yesterday saying, hey, I know that Angela had sent an email that we don't record the workshops. And I was asking, and I'm trying to remember how I worded it, something to the effect of, do you guys mind if I survey you and get your feedback? Don't reply to all, because we don't want to walk in forum, but just send me your thoughts on that, to record, to stream today's meeting or not. You know, and I got a few back that said, go ahead, stream it, whatever, you know. And Rain asked some good questions. And he's like, well, the policy says we stream our regular meetings. And we do, right? And so, you know, from my perspective, it was kind of like, well, is this a regular, well, this is a board meeting. It's a workshop, but it's still a board meeting. And I didn't say this, but it doesn't say you can't stream our other meetings. It says we will stream our regular meetings. It doesn't say you're not allowed to do this one. You know, so when you talk about that policy, it's easy to get caught up in, well, I'm assuming it's this way or that way. And I had to take a step back. I listened to Hillary, I listened, Corey and I talked about it, and some other people, and it doesn't make a big difference to me today if we stream it or not. I don't even know where we are streaming, because I never had an opportunity to talk about it with you guys before the meeting started. So it probably isn't today.
No, we are.
Oh, we are? Oh, okay.
I was supposed to, so I.
Oh, okay. I was out in the hallway and I come in and we had to hit the bell for it was 6 o'clock. But, you know, and so asking questions, being clear about policy. And I said to Ray, I said, you know, what we should do is write down what we mean by these types of meetings. Define what a workshop and what those expectations are. Define each of the committees that we have and what those expectations are. Because I'm not going to be here forever, and you guys aren't going to be here forever. Time goes on. Those policies remain, and we have to be clear and get in writing so whoever these next people are that come to these roles, they don't scratch their head and think, well, I'm going to read it this way, and then somebody else reads it another way, to provide that clarity. So these policies that do have the vagueness help me with that, to get in writing what we really intended and what the meaning was for them. So, because it's going to eliminate confusion, it's going to make me more efficient. I don't have to go around surveying my board and asking admin team members, and you know, it just gets to be, it'll make us more efficient. So, okay, any other things that we could add to our common commitments? Any other ideas?
Do our best, work together to do our best. I mean,
Okay.
Our kids deserve it, our teachers deserve it, our admin deserves it. Commit to being our best. That's it.
Commit to being your best.
Yeah.
Kind of like having a growth mindset. I am not a finished product. And it's easy for me to not be the best version of myself. It's work for me to try to improve and get better, and try to humble myself and say, boy, I got a lot to learn yet. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm nowhere near that. But having a growth mindset, wanting to be the best that we can be, is important. I mean, that's a level of a true high professional.
Here's another perspective to look at this too. We are the board, that's singular. That means all 7 of us are one, it's an entity, right? And if
Good
there's
point.
conflict, if there's disagreement, then it's not benefiting anybody that we represent. So we have to remember that if we're going to work together and do the best and commit to being our best, then we have to do everything in our power to commit to the communication and all the other things that
yeah, you know, you hear about this a lot, in administration and going through superintendent trainings and things. I can't work for 7 people. Because 7 people got me going all over the place. I have to work for one board. And whatever they come up with, whatever you guys as the board tell me to do, the majority vote rules, whether I like it or not. You know, you tell me to jump and I say how high, you know, that type of thing. So, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do want to, are we done with that, or are there more ideas that you guys have? This isn't the Ron Sari show, this is the school board's common commitments.
Ron, when you're done with that, can you, email to it, and then the team can look over it, and then send you back stuff that we can add to it, and add the reasons why we want to add it, and then
Okay.
we can share it with one another?
What do you guys think of that? Nate, what do you think? Is that? I was thinking you guys would approve these tonight, but you don't have to approve. You can approve them next time.
But we can
Kind of
approve.
what I was thinking, but
What's that?
that's kind of what I was thinking.
What?
This is gonna be all my.
But you guys, you know, I don't have all the answers. You guys are providing input, so I'm gonna pivot and say, what do you think? I'm okay with that, but what do you guys think?
Maybe we agree on them tonight and reassess down the road.
Give it, let us sit on it for, agree with these to get a
Okay.
good start, and then when we get all these copies moving, then we follow up, next quarter, through 2-3
Okay.
months from now, and then we, make adjustments, add, delete, and figure out what we wanna do.
The other thing, are you, as a board, open to, at the very beginning of the meeting, after we, take attendance, we'll call Pledge of Allegiance, that we go through these, like, each read one and go around the table, to remind ourselves of them as we begin our meetings. Is that something you guys are comfortable with?
Absolutely. Right there on the spot.
So, I mean, I could share an example, what we do at work is we have a placard that lists the items that we agree to. And when we have a meeting, we just go over them as a reminder. The placard is up and available, whether that's a poster or whatever that we have here. A couple things that I would like to add to this that are from that is, we say it's okay to say sorry or apologize for something, that you might have said wrong,
Okay.
that's one of the things. Another thing that we had on there, I'm just thinking, is no interruptions, no accusations, no gotcha moments. I mean, I could bring the example to share with people if they want, but I think there's a majority of what's on there to show you a depiction of what that looks like, and then it's hung up on the wall, and then it's used as a reminder. Just an idea.
It's a good idea. Good. Okay. So, hearing that, let's scroll down. Let's talk about how do we hold us accountable to our common commitments. What ideas do you have? I was doing this with one of my boards, and my board told me, well, Ron, you're the superintendent, you tell us when we're out of line. And I said, no, that's not my job. I work for you. I am not in any position to go around telling my board that I'm not. You guys, as board members, some boards, I think it's maybe Sun Prairie, around the state, different boards, they have, I forget the title, but they have somebody whose job is to make sure that we're following our rules. And they had training and they pointed it out to the other board members. That doesn't work for everybody, but that was something that they did. But how do you as a board want to hold yourselves accountable to these rules that you guys put down, these rules of engagement?
I'll start us off. I'll just say that how I try to hold myself accountable is own it. All right, and I try to do something about it and come up with a solution.
Ron, is everything okay? You know, hopefully there's no accident, or is everything okay? Cause we need you engaged in this. And I'd say, oh boy, thank you, yeah. Or maybe there is, maybe my wife said my kid got into a car accident, and there's something I got to deal with, but, more than likely it's probably, I was checking my email or something, I shouldn't have been, I should have been engaged in the conversation. So I need to be humble, I need to have that growth mindset, and I need to say, thank you for pointing that out, Rain, appreciate it. I'm back engaged, you know? That's how I would do it.
So, I would say, you know, we need to ask for forgiveness, and we try and make an example, right? My attitude is if there's a problem, that's good, because then there's something we have to fix to work together, to work on, to improve. It's an opportunity for improvement. But one of the way this question is set up, how do we hold each other accountable? I think what needs to be addressed is what we don't do. We don't embarrass anyone. We don't
Nice.
make accusations because we don't understand.
Don't judge.
You know, no prejudgment. And one of the ways you can do that is by asking questions and being polite and being respectful to one another. Nothing can tear people apart more than just, you know, making accusations right there in front of the public. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? So the way, how do we hold each other accountable for common commitments? I would say there's many things that we can do in advance. So for example, understanding the policies, right? If someone's having an issue understanding the policies, well then let's seek out some training, or here's this article that was written for WSB about these 3 policies. Let's help one another learn. And that's holding ourselves accountable. There's work to be done in advance. So without anybody taking offense, you know, I suggested a long time ago that we create a board library where we have resources for board members to check out. There are boards there's boards across the state that write in common language what their policies mean, and they share it with the board members during their orientation. There's a lot of different strategies that we can do in advance so we don't have issues arise, but then when we do, we're holding someone accountable. It doesn't need to be finger pointing, it doesn't need to be embarrassing, it needs to be handled professionally with honesty and integrity. And just remember that the person you're speaking to might have something going on, and you don't know what it is. Like you said, this was a car accident or whatever. You just have to just be nice to one another. So however we hold each other accountable, it just needs to be above board, very respectful.
Yeah, one of them on my admin team in my last district was kind, direct, respectful, KDR. Be kind, be direct, get to the point, but be respectful, and that means my tone too. But I like what you said about asking questions.
That kind of sums up what I was going.
Pretty good. What are you guys thinking? Does this make sense, or things that we should add or change, or?
When is it getting done? Is it addressed after a meeting? Is it addressed during? What do we figure out?
What do you guys think?
When
No.
appropriate.
Me personally, yeah, when appropriate, that's a good answer. Me personally, I like to know on the spot. Because I'm in the heat of that moment, and afterwards, I may not remember, or it gets harder sometimes. That doesn't mean that you have to do that. How do you guys want it? Nobody wants to embarrass somebody either. And it's how we go about it. That's really the tone, the tact, the body language, you know, on how we address it, and the look on their face, you know. Because we don't want it to be a gotcha, I'm embarrassing you because you screwed up, look at that. No, it's, if we're trying to follow those common commitments, we're all gonna screw this up, we're all gonna make a mistake. Every one of us are going to. And so it goes back to that golden rule. How would you like to be checked by your colleague? I'd like it to be kind. I'd like them to be honest, and I'd like to hear. Maybe I would say something that made somebody feel bad, and I'd really like to know how that impacted them. And so if they were saying, "Hey, Ron, when you said X, Y, Z, you know, it made me feel demeaned," and then that would make me feel bad because I don't want to be demeaning people. And then I'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Rain, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to demean you. I'm sorry that's what happened. And it won't happen again. I'm going to work on that so that I'm thinking before I'm speaking and not being the best version of myself as I'm communicating."
Okay, Jeff?
I would say finding the appropriate time is when it's gonna have the most beneficial impact. So, and what I mean by that is beneficial impact is what is going to bring us together as one board. Don't embarrass anybody. If you seek out, if you're on a seek a new story mission where you go embarrass somebody from the public, for example, you put that person on their heels and they're not going to listen to you and you damage your relationship. So what I would say is that you wait for the right moment when the time is right. Sometimes it's right there on the spot and it can be done right, but you need to learn how to read the temperature of the room, and see, you get to, when you know people, when you work together with people, sometimes you can feel it out because it's going to be different in every situation with every different person. But when I say impact, I mean, when are they going to listen to you, where you can engage in a constructive conversation and then benefit the whole, in our case, the whole entire school district. So it's a judgment call by each individual, but it needs to be addressed when appropriate at the right time.
Good answer.
Well, maybe this is something for a retreat that we could ask individually of each person how they would like to be addressed on something. Just an
Good idea.
There might be some of us that wanna be told immediately, there might be some of us that wanna have a discussion offline. You know, there might be some of us, I guess I would say whatever the impact would be is, we're in the face of a board meeting. We have students, we have people that are at our board meeting. So if there's conflict and there's issues, I guess, what can we do to mitigate the negative actions? And if that means holding discussions offline, would present ourselves better in that aspect, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So maybe it's an item for each one of us to address individually on how we would want to be held accountable.
It's fair. It's fair. We're all different. You know. I guess if I screwed up really, really bad, I wouldn't want to be corrected necessarily in front of all these people, right? If I screw up little, it's not going to really hurt me too bad if you check me and say, "Hey, Ron, whatever it is, hey, let's get engaged," or whatever the example is. Do you guys agree with this? Is this?
Well, I can go around the room and ask, so Tony, do you have any, agree with that, any insight?
Insight, so I was thinking of Marine Corps boot camp, that's how they.
Well, they're not going to be too into the empathy piece.
No empathy. But no, those are all wonderful. I think that the key ones is treating each other with respect and assume positive intent and you know, there's a lot of great things up there. Yeah, I'm okay.
Mike, did this answer your question from earlier, or no?
To a point.
just have a scenario in my mind that keeps happening, happened the last 8 or 9 months, that just keeps happening all the time. And I'm trying to entail this and seek clarification how I can use these to deal with that issue that I keep seeing over and over again. I'm gonna sit back and ponder on these.
Okay.
And just give feedback later, because, it's not the appropriate time to address it. We'll
Okay.
start with that right on the board right now, it's not the appropriate time to
Okay.
address it, so.
That's fair. Yeah, we can
I
come
like
back
what's up
and,
there. I like what's up there. I just wanna know that we're gonna adhere to it,
okay.
that's my case, is adhere to it.
Well, what I'm hearing is everybody wants to. Everybody wants to agree to this.
So let me just ask, Melinda, Tiffany, and Rain, we'll start with Melinda, how do you feel about that? Anything you wanna add, or?
No.
Tiffany?
I think what we have up there is fine. I'm in agreement with Mike as to, it's great that you can put it up there, but how is it actually gonna work?
I'd like to keep an open mind with it, you know, just like Ruth said, it's keeping an open mind. Go back and focusing on it and going, okay, stop, sit back, take a breath.
Yeah, cause none of us can make any of us do anything. You know, if I have my mind made up, I'm gonna do what I wanna do. The hope is with the common commitments that if we all own it and we all commit to it, that we're really gonna try to meet them. But it goes back to, we're human and we make mistakes. That's why it's inevitable, we're gonna break them. Just because that's just the way it is. Do we have the courage to step up and hold each other accountable when that happens? It's easy to sit back, it's kind of like, I liken it to administration. If I have a staff member and they're not doing their job, or there's issues, and I ignore it, those issues grow, and I'm kicking the can down the road, and it's even gonna be bigger down the road. So it's better for me, as the supervisor, to approach them respectfully and point out what the issues are, what I'm seeing, and how it should be done differently, and go through that process like that. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And then the processes keep going. You keep in that process. And sometimes it goes to a professional improvement plan. And sometimes that doesn't work. And then you know, there's always choices. And you just have to stay in the process. But ignoring it isn't gonna help us. Talking about it outside isn't gonna help us. But addressing it, having the courage, and the maturity, that's the other thing. It takes a lot of emotional maturity to share in a kind, positive way what you're seeing that is not in alignment with what we are agreeing to.
Do you have anything else you wanna add, or Jeff?
No, the only thing that I can think of is we really don't have our commitment to our community on this.
So go up, Corey. So am I hearing you right, Rain, that you're saying we should add a commitment, that we're committed to our community? Okay, good. Let's add that. Because this is the school, this school is the community's. It's not mine, really, it's not yours, you're the caretakers right now. But it's the community's school district. Yeah?
So I like Rain's response, I think that's great, but I'd say, if you scroll down a little bit, and you look at what the question asks, you know, holding each other accountable for our common commitment. If we do these things, right, if we do this, that is going to be for the betterment of our community and our students and everybody that works in this building. So, going back to what Rain said, yes, but by following all of these things, that is where it comes, we're committing to our community to do better,
Yeah, somebody said at the last meeting during public comment that there is no win-win. This whole thing here is a lose-lose. So, as Rain says, committing to our community, if we do these things, you're helping your community. If we don't, we have to suck up our pride, we have to realize that each of us are at fault. And try to move forward in a positive way. Thanks, Reed. Okay, am I beating a dead horse here, or is there more that we want to talk about? What else do we have? Okay, the second piece now, this is the second piece of the agenda, is communication expectations. Protocols. It really is about fostering positive relationships between myself and you, but I really need to get on the same page as the 7 of you. You know, go back to that example with Rain today with the communication about the streaming. I need to better understand the expectations of you so that I meet your needs as a board. Not 7 expectations, 1 expectation. Well, this one is in red. What issues rise to the level to require an email or phone call? That's a little bit separate. That would be the second piece to this. But go ahead, Corey, highlight those so we can. These are things from my perspective that will help me be better at my job. If I know where you guys are all at as a board in your expectations. So, one thing I like to do, but some boards don't want me to do it. And it's up to you. But I'm willing, if you want that, to have a regularly scheduled phone call with each of you once a week. Just 5-10 minutes. It isn't like there's no business. I'm just giving you a little update on anything that's going on in my life. It's probably very boring. But I'm keeping in touch with you. And if there is a question, I learn a lot. Maybe I'm able to answer a question that you may have too. And if you want, I can put our conversations on a Google Doc and you can all see it. I mean, that can be, it just depends on the board and what they want. But that was something that always was helpful with me. Obviously, I'm giving you reports. I'm putting together recommendations and memos on, I don't know if that's helpful. It takes time. If you don't want me to do it, I won't do it. But it's something that I like to do to try to be clear and provide a rationale for things. I think I may have shared, I don't know if yet, and this is day 15, but if I shared any memos to you as a board, I don't know if I have or not yet, I can't remember. Obviously presenting them at meetings. Some people prefer email, some people prefer text, some people prefer phone. You know, what's the best way to reach out to you? Agenda-driven discussions and decisions with topics clearly outlined on the meeting agendas. You know, almost every board I work with says that they want that. They want it clear on the agenda what it means. Everybody wants no surprise. I never hear anybody that says surprise me. But that's a gray area. Because people say, well, I'm sitting at the board and somebody asked me a question, I have no clue. I feel like I was surprised. But they just got the question that popped into their mind. They told me ahead of time so I was prepared. So that kind of thing does happen. But I think if I'm working hard to not surprise you at the board table, it's a two-way street. You know, please work not to surprise me too. Designated communication points to the board president. That's another one. Some boards say, I'm not going to call you around, I'm going to call the president can talk to you. Every board is different. These are just some examples of some communication protocols. But I really need to hear from you, 7. What do you want? How do you want that to be? And then this next one, if you want to, or you can unhighlight that. This is even more important. because, like, I'm gonna pick on Rain again, he had a good point, he says, Ron, if this is such an issue, why didn't you bring it up at a board meeting? He's right. Maybe I should have brought up at a board meeting, should we stream or not? But you know, you gotta know what rises to the level for me to contact you ahead of time, or to bring it up at a board meeting for a decision, or not. So where a lot of administrators get in trouble is they don't understand their board's expectations of what to share and what not to share. And it doesn't rise to the level that you need to know. I know that you guys, when you're grocery shopping, you don't want somebody to come up to you and say, hey, Jeff, did you know this and this happened? And you're like, oh boy, I don't know. Because it makes us feel dumb, like we're not really involved. So nobody wants to be caught off guard. Well, at what level do you need to be? Obviously, if we have an emergency, you probably need to be called, right? If we shut down school because there's a threat or something, you probably need to know. These are high-level ones. It's at what point down the scale do we stop? And you don't need to know. You know, some of it is just going to be me learning over time, but others, there may be some simple things that you guys can share right now. Obviously, if there's a lawsuit or a legal investigation or something, you're going to want to know when that happens. If all of a sudden we have $2.5 million deficit, you're going to want to know that that's the situation we're in. Or if something, the boiler broke and we got to put $500,000 into something, you're going to need to know those things. This stuff at a high level is common sense. Serious employee misconduct, you need to know that. Significant curriculum changes or program changes or policy shifts. Media attention. Community concerns. But the questions are, where these lower ones, these lower issues, at what point do you need to know? So before we move on, well, I guess this is just a continuation of what was up there. Okay, so let me think of an example. If a student's hurt at school, you need to get a call or a communication. No. No? Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, give me an example. What are you thinking?
It's something major, not that it's an accident and cops are called, absolutely.
Okay. Cops are called? That major? What about a kid that falls off the swing and maybe has a little concussion or something?
That's where I was thinking of when they said no.
No?
That's where my call was when they said no.
Police, fire, rescue, any of those incidences we need to know.
What about a student that cuts his finger off in shop class?
It's probably gonna be ambulance ride, so I think that'll be really important to know.
Good. This one says serious employee misconduct. So serious employee misconduct, coming to work drunk, child abuse allegations. What about if they arrive to work late and they have to have a conversation with them about it? Okay.
I think we don't need to know as much about employees because the administrators are on top of that. If there's something very serious, like that rises to some of the things on the top of the list, I'm like, yes, but even then, knowing names, protecting names is very important.
Do you guys all agree with what Jeff's saying? Just curious where you guys are all at here.
We have to protect our employees' names, that's very important. And then once something is done, or if it rises to the next level, and, inside of a closed hearing, closed meeting, never would hear that once. And
Yes.
it needs to be confidential, 100%.
Yeah, because I think I shared in a communication to you, the other day, something to the effect of, you as a board are a judicial body as well. Whether it's a student with discipline that could go to you, a staff member with a grievance that could rise to your table. So some of these things in the back of my mind, I'm going to not want, I may be able to share a context, but not get into detail. Because you're gonna be the judge. You're the judge and jury on those, and you don't wanna be biased, because then you have to recuse yourself, and you can't be part of the deliberation, you know. So some of those, it gets tricky. Now me, I like to err on the side of informing you, but I don't wanna taint you with too much information, so I may share, okay, I got this major discipline situation, drugs, violence, whatever, it could come to you as an expulsion. And just leave it at that, so you haven't, you're tipped off, but you don't know anything about it, or it is, the grade, or anything identifying it. Or same thing with a staff member or something. Because I want you to be aware that it's a major thing that we're working on, but, I don't want you caught off guard, but at the same time, you don't need to know it all. Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you. So, if there are things in here that you think of, communicate them to me, okay? Because my goal is to meet your needs. And if there's a difference and Melanie feels one way, Tony feels another, then we'll have to bring it, we'll just come together and we'll talk about it. And we'll come to a conclusion, we'll find some common ground where that is with different examples so that it's clear to me. Appreciate that, thank you. Okay, this is going, we're having a good conversation, it's going longer than I thought. So to create communication protocols, I listed up a bunch of examples. But this isn't my communication protocols, they're for you, well they're for me too, but what you expect. What do you want to put here to create for your expectations with communications with me? You know, I had some examples up there. Do you want me to do a weekly phone call? I would set it up with you individually at, like for instance, one person said, Tuesdays during my lunch at noon, give me a call. Another person said, oh, Fridays at 3:30, give me a call. But we don't have to do that either. It's up to you as a board, if you want that.
Well, Ron, I just have a question. You had asked us to fill out some stuff. Was this one of the things, the expectations that you wanted from each board member? Does this go along with that?
It kind of does, yeah. I'm just kind of jump starting here. You know, I've only met with. Oh, I didn't even.
I heard that with you.
I met with Rain and Angela and Tony, so I still have 4 of you I gotta meet with.
Okay.
And I think only Tony's handed in your document. So I need you guys to do that yet for me too. It's still early, there's no big deal.
Okay.
So when it comes to create communication protocols, and I'm asking for some clarity here, are you just asking how you're gonna reach out to us individually? Because I have,
Oh, both.
okay, so having a weekly update that is emailed to everybody,
Okay.
so that we all know, hey, these are the topics, this is what happened
Okay.
this week. So if you do something like that on a Friday, then the next week when you have discussions with me.
No, I sent out a weekly update to everybody. It was generic, there was nothing really in there. But, you want more meat?
Well, whatever.
I didn't have any real meat.
No, and some weeks are gonna be that way, right? But, anything you can get out there,
Okay.
for information, some weeks it'll probably be a page, some people will be, paragraph,
And
so.
I have in the past been differentiated, and sometimes a different one with more information goes to the board. Because community doesn't need to know about it. And sometimes it's differentiated for staff too, because community didn't need to know about a certain thing.
And another thing too, you could, on a weekly basis, talk to the administrators, and if they have something that they want us to be aware of. Like, sometimes I'll list, like, hey, there's going to be an art fair, or there's students, going to be, at a debate or a forensics competition in Berlin, if you have time, schools. And so when you send us your report, I think there should be an additional, like, what the administration, if they choose to give us an update on anything.
I asked them, especially Craig, for that kind of information. So, yeah, they'll do that. They're all back in line.
I think that would be great, and then we have a
Right there.
conversation, phone calls are great, just to be one-on-one, but as long as we provide the same information up front, we can obviously, address other issues, but we have the same information, everything goes a long way to be better, and working well together.
Well, there's the school calendar and the RST app. That is how I get information. They don't,
It doesn't,
just an FYI.
School calendar, what app?
The scheduling app. that's
Our
what's
school,
going on.
our school,
Our
okay.
school.
Okay.
I don't know, I don't remember off the top of my head what the acronym means, but RST.
Okay,
It tells you daily what's going on. You just click on it and
cool.
yeah.
it's not responsive, it doesn't show up on every monitor size, and it cuts off, and then
Shows up on the phone.
it's awesome. I'm just saying, for me, for my technology, it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes if I go home and use my personal phone, I can see it, but there's lots of different communication tools. I don't know how many calendars we have, but it seems like we have apps for everything. There's so much technology out there that's differing.
Well, the good thing, it works for Melinda,
Right.
so that's terrific.
Let's find a way that works for everybody.
Yep.
I think that's the key, is to, and that's why Corey's here, right, Corey? Yes, there we go. Thank you, Corey.
Okay, any other ideas for communication? You're smiling over something, Ryan.
I think it's, unless needed, I think it's nice to keep point of contact, but I don't need to get.
Okay.
There's a fine line of communication and over communication. So,
Good point. Well, help me with that, because sometimes I may over communicate. And if I'm over communicating, help me with that. Because I've learned the hard way that the biggest issue in every organization is communication. And part of it is interpretation, But I think we work hard here in Wrightstown to get as much out as we can.
Are we kind of doubling up on the administration component, because they do give us their update at the board meeting?
It's a good
I don't
question.
necessarily need that stuff, the weekly email from you, on Fridays or whatever is fine, but I feel like we already did that. I don't know what would be different about what they give us at the board meeting.
They're pretty comprehensive.
Hey, what you got is good.
You don't want me calling you every week then. Okay. Some people yeah, and some people no.
I think anything that comes to the level where the district could be put at risk in any way, shape, or form, regardless of how often it is, we should know.
Right. Okay. I got that. What are you thinking, Jeff?
I think, so, I agree with what Melinda said. Yeah, there is a calendar out there, and I get that, and that's very helpful. And I get what Tiffany's saying. That's retrospective, though. What I'm saying is, and maybe I didn't say it clearly, so I agree with what they're saying. What I'm saying is to have the administration, the opportunity, if there's something that's in the future happening, next week, that they want us to be aware of.
To let me know when I put it in my.
Right. So for example, we don't have enough people helping at the concession stand over here. Can you help us volunteer? There's other ways, there's
It's a good
I
idea.
just think that it's really good to, you know, we have a chain of command where we go for you, but if there's things that the administrators want us to know,
Okay,
bring it to us. If there's anything we can get help for, your help them, that's what I'm asking for. I'm not asking you to give updates on the scores. I've had to say that Craig's reports are always a hit at our board meetings, because everybody likes to know. We can obviously see, we can use pictures of the scores, what we won, we lost as well, but if Craig's like, hey, this is these seniors' last basketball game, home game, come on and support them and spread the word. That is something that we can do that helps our teams, or his mission is being a great, you know, the best athletic director you can be. So whatever we can help, let us know.
Does that capture that? Kind of.
okay. Now, this is what I suggest for in the future down the road, and I wanna kinda get your feedback. This is a book that I've used quite a bit. It's called School Board Field Book, Leading with Vision, and it talks a little bit about what you guys were saying, you know, the governance. I think it was Tiffany, you're at the governance policy level, administration's tactical, and the staff is operational level, and it breaks it down, and we could do a chapter, a meeting, 2 chapters, whatever you guys would want, have a short little discussion, talk about it. Because we're not all gonna be on the same page. Some of us are gonna read this and we're gonna say, I don't know, what do you think? I don't agree with that. And that's gonna help me as we talk through it on some of these roles, responsibility pieces. Is this something that you guys are open to?
I mean, we've done, like, we personally, I'm not opposed to, but we've done that one before.
I didn't know he wrote a book.
Yeah, the playbook.
Oh, okay. I know Lee from when he was a superintendent down in southwest Wisconsin.
I thought we did. I mean, I'm curious, I'd be curious to read about, you've done that one as well.
Okay.
I'll take a look at it, and that's right.
Okay. What do you think, Melinda?
Yeah, I'm not
You're-
opposed to it.
You're open?
And education is kind of a thing.
Yeah. And Tiffany, you were shaking your head, okay? Okay. So now, let's see, let's go back to the agenda, Corey, maybe I'll take my seat back. So we finished that, we finished this, now we go to, okay. Corey, this is really you. So, Corey's been learning a lot, and he's been educating me a lot these last few weeks, and I'm gonna pull up the, we'll move to the next topic.
Okay, so let me,
It's not
okay, okay, alright.
So, Corey put this together, for us. You know, if I'm gonna sum this up down and dirty, we're looking for approval of 2 audits. One is this one, a Google Workspace for Education audit. The approximate cost is $4,000. We've noticed some things, and as soon as I figure more out, I'm gonna be sharing that with you, what we've noticed as far as security and those types of things. Corey, can you sum this up in just a few sentences, paragraph?
Essentially, Google Workspace is most of the organization's communication runs off this. It's a productivity suite. It has changed a lot in over a decade that it's been in the organization, and it has never been audited. Most of our testing goes through configurations from there, all of our email security, all of our document security, pretty much everything every way in which we communicate has gone through there. And so it has gone through a massive number of changes. Google's grown considerably. I mean, at the time in which the district moved over, Google had like 2 or 3 devices on the market. Now it's more than half of the education market in the United States is that particular suite, right? So it has really changed a lot, and with two people in the department essentially, although we have the expertise with the two of us, the time that it takes to go through and audit all of that and then be able to change the appropriate things to audit is where we're having a bit of a conflict, I guess. My past, I have 4 different Google certifications from Amplified IT, which is one of the premier partners of Google. When I was in O'Connell Falls, we did one in 2017 and never needed to do one again as of 2025. And the purpose in that is to kind of get it to where the industry standard is now and then pay attention to it and continue to hold it to that industry standard. Not to say that it wasn't in the past, but if you haven't audited it since it came out, there wasn't even really an industry standard when the district adopted it. It was so new. Since then, there's been quite a few different compliance measures that exist, and so that was kind of the idea. So the idea would be, again, using the company that we're asking to use is Trifera, who does a lot of Google's, again, certification courses, so the people that would be doing that, actually 2 of them used to be directors of technology, one in Minnesota, one in Wisconsin. Those would be the people that would be looking into our domain, and then we would be having periodic meetings with them to go through the configuration changes. Some of them are required based upon federal laws that have changed. There's a number of them that have been shifting lately, and ensuring compliance is pretty important. So.
Anybody have any questions regarding this audit? Jeff?
Yeah, is there any redundancy between the Google Workspace environment and on different servers? Do you back anything up?
Right now, we do not have a different service. So, for example, like SysCloud is another example of this, where it would take the information from Google and back it up. Let's say on like Amazon Web Services, there's also some services out there that could take the information and back it up to like an Azure or an Entra environment. But right now, we really rely on one, and so we have to be very careful as to holding on to different accounts and that kind of things, because there is Google Vault, which is the backup system, but the users need to continue to exist in that system in order for that backup to continue, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. And then we have internal servers, correct?
We do have internal servers. Our internal servers don't store any of the Google information at this time, so the internal servers are primarily, if you're talking file servers, most of those are Windows-based file servers, or things that would hold on to local storage. That is backed up using Unitrends, and there's some immutable backup options that way. But it does not, the cloud Google environment doesn't touch the Active Directory / Microsoft Windows environment.
So have you taken a look into the server network? Will that need to be audited as well? Or?
So that's the second audit that I'm asking about is a different company and with a different focus, right? I wouldn't ask Trifera to look at that environment because that's not their expertise. So that's kind of why I'm splitting it up into 2 different asks here rather than one company, because I don't believe that the companies that the 2 specialties here are not the same. I don't know how to explain that in a different way other than, you go to a car shop and they can't fix every car. They specialize in a variety of them, and you want to go to that particular place for that particular model type of thing. So.
Perfect.
Any questions? Anything else?
Another aspect of this is that we do have cyber insurance. I haven't had the chance to fill out any of those questionnaires, but I know that we have that as a part of our umbrella insurance. It's a good idea to be able to continue to have proof of your behaviors and kind of your cyber cleanliness and hygiene, to be able to prove in that situation if something were to happen to you, that you're beyond a questionnaire, that you also have some proof, in fact, that you were not negligent in your configurations. So.
During an audit, is there any risk of interruption to business as usual?
The Google audit, there should not be. I won't promise it, but the reason I say I won't promise it is so here's a good example, right? One of the things that we, coming in middle of the year, I've never come in the middle of the year. It's not a great time to make changes. At the same time, when you have certain things that are occurring, you have to kind of figure out, okay, the state says that to take state's Wisconsin forward, right? So they say at this point they certify that Chrome version 126, let's say, for example, is the certified version of that. We had our devices prior to Matt and I being here moving up beyond that, and now that it's testing season, we can't go beyond that because we need to make sure that the devices are actually able to take the test. So we unfortunately had to roll them back right in the middle of everybody working on them, and sometimes they restart and they disrupt, and that's not a good idea. And unfortunately, you have to do that in the middle of the year to remain compliant, but at the same time, if you get that configuration in place and keep it there, you don't disrupt people in the future, right? So our intent would be very much to try as hard as possible. I used to be an English teacher. Nothing's worse than having all of your technology not working when you're expecting it to, and the kids are on it at that time, right? So very much sympathize with that, and very much try not to do that. But in the cloud environment, we should have very, very minimal interruption. And I know we haven't talked about the second one yet. The second one could have some of those, but we would work very hard to schedule those after hours, as we do right now for most server updates and that kind of thing.
Corey, I have the second one up right now. And I know that you put down the approximate cost being 10,000, but you found out that it's what, 6,000 or 5?
It's 75, and the reason for the reduction in that is, number one, we reduced the, by going with Trifera and not going with them, with Heartland. Heartland doesn't have a whole lot of certification at all in the Google space, which is part of the reason I feel like we could do it. Maybe it'd be like a little bit cheaper, but I also don't know that it was going to actually solve the problem, if that makes sense, right? So we did reduce the email portion of it. A variety of different cloud-based parts of it are cut out of that. I couldn't get that in your packet. I couldn't get the negotiation part of that done in time on Friday. So, but I do have a new one that I have shared with Ron that just couldn't get it in the packet fast enough. The other part is the district did a lot of work on security and entrances and that kind of thing in the past. And so there's another company that is out of Madison that will do a security audit on cameras, door access, things like that for no dollars. So they'll do a pretty comprehensive audit for that for free. I've been through that audit with them before. It's a pretty good audit for the Powell Falls, and so we asked Heartland to cut that part out of it so that wouldn't have a cost to us. And that company is exclusively a security company. That's really all they do is doors and cameras. So they're kind of specialists in that area. Other than that, this is your servers area, Jeff, that you were asking about. This is kind of the physical infrastructure on site here in a lot of cases, right? Your firewall, your server infrastructure, your Active Directory policies, that kind of thing.
Is this a one-time $7,500?
Yes. Yep.
Nothing annually after that?
No, this is a one-time cost. The district has a history of working with Heartland as a partner, basically, because let's say for the summertime, Heartland did replace the firewall over the summer. They replaced some of the storage area network. That's what Jeff was asking about before, the files and that kind of thing. So they replaced a lot of that. They replaced some of the camera servers. At the same time, some of the configurations were, the district went through a lot of change this summer, changing over from Skyward to Parent Square to Securely. The list goes on and on and on. So the benefit is that there's good tools in the garage, right? At the same time as when you buy all the tools in the garage all at one time, you haven't really configured any of those tools, or it's very hard to configure all those tools and buy them all at once, right? And so there's some things even right now. Last week we just were able to put two-factor authentication on the firewall, which is like a major requirement of a firewall. So although it's a great firewall, it's installed, it's new, it's fantastic, but it still probably deserves some time looking at what are the policies, what's in it. Are we allowing traffic from every country in the world, or are we what kinds of VPNs are we allowing in there, who's on this particular part, all that kind of stuff has really no documentation for it. And generally those types of things are how a district can be subject to an attack from outside. It sounds maybe crazy, but with more time and conversation, you probably see that it's not that unlikely, and districts within this own valley have shut down in the past as a result of some of that kind of stuff.
Any other questions?
So assessment of physical security, that whole portion of the
Yeah, it's not even in there, which is one of the reasons, again, why it was dropped from that 10 grand to 75. I also cut out the phone system, as that was pretty new. Phone systems are really well, along with paging and that kind of thing. That was a lot of that was done in this building, but it's consistent in middle school and high school, and it's in good shape. The licenses for that are quite, it doesn't appear to me, if you're trusting me to that one, I don't believe that there's any real reason to go through that, because those configurations seem to be in really good shape, and there's not a whole lot of reason I feel like to go through that kind of audit at this point.
Any other questions? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the two proposed technology audits for Representative Corey.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Tony. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Next thing we have a motion to bring to the floor the curriculum discussion and possible action regarding and creation of a director of teaching and learning position for 25-26. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make the motion to discuss the curriculum discussion, possible action regarding creation of the director of teaching and learning position.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, the floor is open for second on the director of teaching and learning position.
So, yeah, we're bringing this forward to you, partly because we have an unfilled administrative position that was vacated. Those responsibilities were distributed across the administrative team. Recently, we had a consultant from CISA come in and did a scan analysis and is working with us on our job descriptions administratively, looking for overlap, looking at ways that we can become more efficient. And as we had that conversation, we talked about this possibility of a director of teaching and learning. And I outlined some of the rationale. I'm not going to read this to you, but I just will hit the main pieces, why we believe this is important for strengthening the instructional leadership of our team. This would be, these responsibilities would be on one person's focal point and the main focal point of their job to ensure that we are doing what we need to do from a curriculum and teaching and learning basis. Supporting professional development. I talked a little bit about this last week from the feedback that I received from staff and the admin team. We need to do a better job planning and preparing our professional development activities so that they're aligned with the work that we're doing with curriculum. It'll help us make better data decisions by being able to analyze data in a more timely fashion. Curriculum alignment and coherence. One of the concerns the administrative team and staff have shared is the vertical alignment between grade levels. Within the grade levels, I think we can improve, but that's a stronger point than from one grade level to another, from one building to another. Right now, as an administrative team, we're not certain what each building is doing compared to the building that they're in. So this person will own those responsibilities. Fostering collaboration and innovation and addressing the changing educational needs that take place. I don't know if you have any questions. This memo, I collaborated with Sarah. Sarah has an interest in this. She's licensed. If this ends up moving forward, administration's recommendation would be that we promote Sarah into that role. She's passionate about curriculum, teaching and learning. She's knowledgeable, she knows what she's doing. I have total confidence she would be successful in that role. And then what we would, we're kind of brainstorming strategies on how we would fill her role. If we do go this route, one possible plan would be just hiring a principal. But maybe a preferred plan would be hiring a dean of students who for a year could possibly kind of be mentored as Sarah puts more and more focus into the teaching and learning piece and still mentors this new person, depending on if it would be somebody internally or externally and their level of preparedness. It could even be an assistant principal if it's somebody external that we think has the right stuff to be a good fit and to be able to succeed her as we gradually release for her to be totally focused on teaching and learning. So even though this is a position created, she's still going to play a role in the elementary, more than likely, for at least 1 year, helping whoever we are able to identify to replace. Questions?
I would like to ask the administrators what your thoughts are. This is what I understand. I did speak, one of you, who made it sound like this is the greatest greatest thing we can do, and I believe you, Sarah. I mean, Sarah talked to me about this and laid it out, explained why she wanted this, and how it's going to better our students and our kids across the board, and I think it's a great idea. As far as the other principals, administrators, are you all on the same page?
Yeah, definitely. It's something we've been talking about for a while. Historically, we had a part-time curriculum person for a while, and when Casey left, we didn't fill that position. And it left a void, because in the time Casey was here, she was able to do some good things. And if we have somebody who this is their full-time job, and we can start to look at where we are at the elementary all the way through high school, and talk about that vertical alignment and making sure there's no holes, there's no gaps. Everybody's got what they need, more information, somebody's got somebody's system.
Yeah, it's one of the major components of, and this is teaching and learning too. This isn't curriculum only, so we're not looking to implement a bunch of new resources. This is pedagogy, this is assessment, this is how it's all intertwined into utilizing the resources that we have currently more effectively. Making sure that, again, we understand what the level of rigor at the 4th grade level in math is, and making sure that we're assessing at that level of rigor, and then what's the difference between 4th grade math and 5th grade math? Standards are great from it's got an academic standard standpoint, but they don't get into kind of more the granular level of what we need to assess kids at to make sure that they're at the level so that they're gonna then perform on ultimately our scoreboard, which is the whole test.
Sounds like you're coalescing the grades together, the buildings together to improve our kids' outcomes, so that's great.
I'll just add that there's no better time than now, because kids are doing, like, achievement is good, but we see our population changing. The kids that are coming to our buildings, there's more needs, so we're gonna really work on improving.
Sounds like a great idea. Thank you, sir, for stepping up and willing to do that, because leaving this early, I think it's a positive. I don't see any loss on this whatsoever, so it's just a win-win.
And I always say, this is the business of our business. We are in the education, this is teaching and learning, and we need somebody to stay focused on that and help guide all of us as a team and our staff. So, thank you, I appreciate your questions.
Anybody else have any questions?
We've already talked a lot, but I'll say something about this. The technology is expensive, right? And so to streamline it, you have to know what you're serving. You have to know what it is that is going to be beneficial to filter out what we don't need versus what we actually do need, right? So this particular department, I feel like, although we can spend and spend and spend, it does a much better job not spending on things that we don't need when we have a filter through an individual that understands curriculum, assessment, and student development all the way from K through 12. And so that's how we will strategically say no to the things we don't need, and then support the things that we do need from this side. And the two fields intertwine quite a lot now, because a lot of the content is coming through digital means. So it would be very welcome from our side too.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
As far as the strategic plan of it, when you look at, moving this now into the curriculum director position, sounds like there's a couple options of what that plan looks like.
Yes.
So, is there any variances between the two, and how that would plan out in the district, or, is it dean of students that moving into principal, I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brain. It depends on that individual's skill set coming in and licensure coming in. If they have just been in the classroom and have no administrative license, they're going to be a dean of students. If they already have completed their program, or they're very close to completing their program, they could be an assistant principal. So it depends on the individual, their skill set, what they bring, but even more importantly is, are they the right fit? Do they fit into our expectations of what a professional is here in the school district? We have some very strong administrators, and they have to fit this mold. That's That's very important for us. That's the key. And if we can get a person that can fit that and is gonna rise to that occasion, we can train them and we can get them to, but we can't train attitude in those types of things. They have to have that right attitude. They have to be hardworking, they have to care about kids, put kids first, they have to be team players, they have to be able to work together and collaborate. We're a small team, we're close knit, we gotta get along. You know, we have to have that social emotional intelligence to, when we have differences, that we solve them constructively. You know, that we're able to communicate in a way that isn't turning people off.
So how are you gonna post for that then? Like, I'm assuming it's gonna have to be quick, right?
Yeah, we would post and we would probably lay out the options. We'd probably say an assistant principal or dean, with anticipation that after a year approximately, they would take the building over and be the principal, the instructional leader of that building, under the tutelage of Sarah and the rest of us as a team. Even if they have experience, the best candidate would be an experienced principal who wants to move to a great community, to a great school district. That would be the best. And hey, if we get applications and they rise to the top, maybe they just become the principal. It'll just depend on their experience and their skill set. Otherwise, they'd be the assistant principal for a period of time, a year, learn the ropes of how we do things in Wrightstown here at this elementary school, learn the staff, and then take it over. Does that make sense? Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Ron, I assume one of the steps will include like creating a job description for the director of teaching and learning for us to go over, possibly include.
Exactly, we're working on that. One thing we noticed that our job descriptions right now are very vague. If I'm right, we have one principal job description, but we have 3 principals in 3 buildings with 3 different sets of expectations. So, you know, we're working on making them be specific for that role. And so you're right, the Director of Teaching and Learning job description is being developed by us. We will get that to the board for your review as soon as we're able to get that completed.
Just to be clear, because, you know, we're on a clock, we can vote in this position tonight and then approve the job description later, just to make sure, right?
Yeah, and, you know, we're working with CSUD in the job description, and I don't know, Sarah, how confident are you that we would have that ready for the end of February, or would it be in March? The job description just.
I think it depends, I think we just scheduled a time with,
That's the 27th.
let's do it.
So maybe the beginning of March, we could bring it to you?
I might be able to work with Renee earlier than that, let me reach back out to her, and I think we could probably work something on administratively where we could find another date to meet with her prior to the 19th to send her the job
The other question
description.
I have, since we're brought up the 19th, that is, parent-teacher conference night again.
Good point, Rain, thank you. The meeting, well, we were gonna move the meeting to the high school, but are you saying to switch the date?
Possibly.
I know-
Great for us.
I know Mike,
We're already here on conference day.
Mike is out of town.
I might be on the town that day, so I'm just trying to get it moved.
In my experience,
So anybody is fresh.
and every place is different, right? But in my experience, we always kept a meeting on that date that it was scheduled unless we couldn't get a quorum. Just because whether there's 7 of you or 4 of you, the board, we need at least 4 for the quorum. We just keep it, because moving the dates, it creates confusion. And if we moved it to the earlier Monday, that would be 3 board meetings, week after week after week, and I don't know, it takes me a lot of time to put these memos together, these communications, to be prepared for you. And I know it takes the rest of us time to get this stuff in order to be prepared for you. So I really request that you guys all have careers and you have families and you have jobs and things happen. And you're gonna get pulled in different directions, and that's okay. That's okay if he misses because he's gotta be out home for work. And Rain, if you got a thing going on,
Well,
it's okay.
been a teacher conferences for the school district that we're
Yeah.
going for. So,
Well, I even think if we could play around with the time, so it's a little bit later, cause I know, when we did roll call, I wasn't here for one of the times, so it showed as an absence that I wasn't here when I came later.
Well, it should show, we have to correct that then, Melinda, because if we come in a minute late, we just say arrived at 6:01. That should be noted in the minutes. So that's our fault if we miss that.
Cause it would be helpful if it was even moved back, because like you said, we're coming from work, so to try to get, especially the high school with all the different teachers, that would be helpful.
Do you have parent-teacher conferences that you need to be at Kakana for, or is there any sort of?
Not the February 19th one, but yes, I had an absence because I had to be gone for work as well last year.
Okay, so if we can start it like a half an hour, maybe half an hour later, would that accommodate everybody, or just move the date?
well, I was just wondering if there was the possibility of that, position available, that would be the 26th, but you said your meeting was not until the 27th.
She had sent us multiple times. I can work with the administrative team, and, cause we wanna get back together as an administrative team, we were gonna talk about it on Monday, so maybe I can throw out some different dates that we.
That's what I was trying to make a little best of.
Yeah, she looks like she has some availability on the 11th or the 13th, so maybe administratively, if we can find some time on those days, we can get to work sooner rather than later.
So my recommendation would be to, let Ron know if we should change the date since it's not on the agenda to discuss. And then, Ron, can you let us know if we're gonna move?
Well, if it's just me, I'm gonna keep it. But if you guys wanna change it, tell me, and we'll do whatever the majority of you guys want.
I'm okay with the date, but if we wanna be accommodating for people to have, my son's right here at the elementary school, and I want to meet his teacher and see how he's doing, right? So, if those type, if there's a little bit of, I can get here early before our board meeting, if there's anybody
Is
else.
there a better time then for
Yeah.
everyone?
Is there a better time, because I think I can have out done earlier, when I can schedule it, but.
I was just saying 6:30, because they start at 4, so.
Would 6:30 be okay?
2.5 hours should be, I mean, granted,
Okay.
there's lots to love quick, but it is what it is. At least it would give more time.
Yeah.
So I think we can compromise, let's move it to 6:30.
Okay, so we'll do that, Hillary, we'll move, it's gonna be at the high school. Just because I think that'll work better. So that's a big change, so we have to move it to the high school, we'll do that at 6:30 instead of 6. We're putting the agenda together, we started that already. So going back to this item,
Yeah, if there's any more questions or comments? I just want to circle back that in the K-12 education sector, that, this is a popular position that's out there. And it's very data-driven, close to achieving the gap for student success. So if there is no other comments or questions, then I'm gonna make a motion to approve the director of teaching money position for 25-26.
Well, just wait, and typically workshops, we're not voting like it's a board meeting. So,
So this was agendized to put a vote on it, because I believe that there's one, the need is there, but I think number 2, we need to hire a new principal for the placement, and once there's a green light for this, all the work we're doing for CISA to come up with a curriculum.
no, I understand how it
Right.
works. I just think we could give it until we meet on the 19th.
I would, yeah, sorry, I was kind of going off of what you are saying. I like the idea of the curriculum coordinator, the director of, teaching and learning, but I would like to see the job description.
I basically got a book of the job description up there already. That's what we were going through.
And Jeff, on this thing, just I hate to interrupt you, I'm sorry. I did put, because I knew that this is a workshop, so I did put, either you could do a motion, or you could just push it to the next meeting.
Okay.
It's up to the board.
So I'm gonna do a motion, and then I'll ask for those that are in favor or opposed, and if they're opposed, then we'll move it to the next date. So I make a motion to approve the Director of Teaching and Learning position, seconded by anybody?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? And anyone opposed?
I'm gonna say yes, opposed for right now.
Okay, that's fine.
I would agree, I would like the job description ahead of time.
Okay, so let's do a roll call, whether we, approve this tonight or we hold off till the 19th. So for me, it's a yes, we approve it. Tony?
I think it's a wonderful idea, I'm gonna say yes.
Yes, okay. Tiffany?
No.
Mike?
I'm gonna say yes.
Rain?
No.
Jeff?
Yes.
And Linda?
No, I need more information.
Okay, so motion carried to approve the Director of Teaching and Learning position, but it would be good if we could still get a job description.
We will,
Okay,
Will we get a salary with that as well?
yes.
So everything that goes with it before actually approving it?
Yeah, we'll get the contract put together.
okay. Next thing I have, I have a motion to bring to the floor the consent agenda and process discussion with possible action for moving forward with future board agendas to include the consent agenda section.
I believe I touched on this a little bit last week.
Hold on a sec, do I have a motion?
Oh, I'm
first?
sorry.
Move the agenda forward.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Sorry.
All right, thank you. And now the floor is open for discussion. Sorry about that, Ron.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was getting ahead of myself. I'm too excited.
I know, I'm excited too.
So, a consent agenda, will help us streamline our meetings, make things quicker. I brought it up briefly. I'm not gonna read this because you have this, but it should help us to be more efficient in our meetings, increase our focus, improve transparency, because if there's something in that agenda, the consent item that you want pulled, we pull it, and that can be voted on separately. It'll enhance our governance role as a board, and be in alignment with best practices. If you look around the state and the country, you'll see that highly effective boards do operate with a consent agenda. So I guess this is another one. This can get tabled, or you can vote on it tonight. Either way, from an administrative standpoint, it doesn't matter. So I guess I just ask if you have questions.
What will it consist of, the consent agenda, like what's gonna be in that?
Great question, and the simple answer is whatever the board wishes to put in it. Typically, it would be the bills. Sometimes boards put in their minutes, the approval of the minutes. The hirings, the typical hirings, the typical resignations, those types of items you get ahead of time, you read them, you're aware of what they are, and it's a routine item, they get in the consent agenda and for approval. Jeff, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's your hand. If I, wanna talk about the minutes, it's gotta be voted on, and the majority. So if I say I wanna pull out the minutes, I wanna talk about this, and 4 or 5 people vote, no, I can't, no, you can't, the other 2 say.
I think it gets, in my experience, it gets bold if one person wants it. Jeff?
Yeah, that's the clarity. The consent agenda doesn't mean that we're not giving away any of our powers at all. What it does is it wraps it all up so we can move the meeting on further, but if there are any questions, any discussion, you can pull it out, you can talk about it, you can say, I have a question about, and then we discuss it just like we've always discussed it.
But then why would you vote on it? If it's gonna
you would pull it out and then it would be a separate item, we don't have to vote to approve it being pulled out.
Right.
What I read that you said you have to vote on, or my misunderstanding.
So if you have a question, let's say on somebody's building, if it's answered, sufficiently, it's okay, but if you wanna pull out a complete item, the board can vote on it out,
Right, so you have to vote on it.
just like you would do.
Right.
normally, yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't automatically get pulled out because I'm requesting it. It
I
has
thought
to
it
be
did.
voted on the majority then.
But it-
Different board policy does different things.
you guys can decide how you wanna do it.
Yeah.
That's what I was, because I'm kind of agreeing with Tiffany, that, you know, if one person wants to talk about it, that's something that we, like you were saying, Mark, it would be good that we could agree on, yes, if one person has a question, we pull it out. So my next question is, would we, if there were no questions about the other items, could we do a vote on those right then?
Yes.
Okay, and then we would discuss the one item and make a decision, or talk about it.
Would it help to have a template of the consent agenda for people to see what it looks like?
It's a good idea, I should have done that.
Where we, if you wanna table it, and then we could take a look at what an example of a consent agenda looks like. And then there could be more questions.
I think it would help. I mean, Ron said it's a high functioning board way of speeding things up. We just went through common commitments, so I think we can all agree that we're probably not high functioning at this moment.
Well, we're all working progress. We're all gonna get better.
The other thing that, just based on some research I did, is, Robert's rules does not support, so we have to do a parliamentary update to how we're doing our meeting, just so that's in there. So, and then, you know, some of the cons about it was also it can create a lack of transparency also, right? There is a lack of transparency, and then it also leads to limited discussions, which then goes to oversight to certain topics, so I think there's pros and cons, but there are pros, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, you're right.
Is there, I don't know who brought this forward in regards to the consent agenda, but is there, whoever did, what was the thought process behind it? What was the benefit to you?
Well, good question, I've done this, had consent agendas in any district that I've been in, and it speeds things up. The beauty is I haven't had rubber, you know, they call them rubber stamp boards, where everything, no questions, people don't read the packet. I've had good boards like you that are engaged and you come prepared, you're aware of what's going on in the consent agenda. So, there really isn't a need, because it's just the typical run-of-the-mill things that you approve every month, you know. I don't know if that answered your question.
You had interesting consent
Yeah.
agenda,
Yeah.
maybe you could share.
So many school districts do this, and it opens up, first of all, everything should be posted online and should be given to the public up front before a meeting, unless it's something like a personnel report that's withheld, or an executive folder, obviously.
talking about it like fall next year sometime, when we can see progress with the board. But yeah, that's just my two cents on it.
Okay, so I will go around the room and ask and see if we should table that. So Tony, I think we should table it or vote
Well,
or?
I think we should do it, but I don't know, we need to wait until the fall. And so, but yeah, I kind of like along with Tiffany, there's some things that they can see the benefits, but there's some things I just want to know on a little bit.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
get some thought.
Okay. And Mike, how about you?
I'm good with tabling it, and I guess if you could give us a general really what it entails and things like that.
Okay.
And guidance to it, that would be appreciated.
Can do.
Okay. I would say table it too, I just would like to see a template, what it looks like, and then how it would work with Robert's Rules of Order, so that, that's consistent. Jeff?
Yeah, Eric said, I'm for tabling it, so we can bring out more information, who knows, maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's something in there that I don't know about, so let's bring it all out, let's talk about it next meeting.
Okay, Green?
Table it.
Tiffany, table, and Linda?
If I say table it, my biggest concern is, the lack of transparency. So I'd like to see a template, so you can see kind of how it's laid out and think about it a little bit more.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so then do I have a motion to table this, item for a consent agenda to the February 19th board meeting?
Make the motion to move to the next meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? All right, so we'll table that for the February 19th board meeting. Thank you. The last things are discussion and possible action. So do I have a motion to bring to the floor the discussion and possible action for adding an agenda item to the board meeting agendas entitled future agenda items?
I would like to make a motion to bring the discussion and possible action on future agenda items.
All right, is there a second?
Go ahead.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so the floor is open for discussion to add the agenda, future agenda item topic to our current agenda. Anybody have any questions or discussion on that?
This was something that came to me from Linda, or Tiffany, I'm sorry.
Tiffany?
Tiffany, and do you wanna address it, Tiffany?
Well, we just had a meeting with, Jim Macy, and we were talking about, what we could do so that everybody was able to get agenda items on to the agenda. And so this was something that he had suggested back in October, to put future agenda items on, so we could all discuss it and then put them on there for future agendas.
Good. Jeff?
I think it's a great idea. I don't think anybody should ever be alienated from the rest of the board. If they have an idea, they should get out there, and have the board discuss it to see if it should be on the agenda. So, obviously it doesn't mean it's going to get on an agenda, but at least we can discuss it and listen to one another, find the reason why. And, if it comes to consensus to move something forward, I think it's a great idea. So I am in favor of this.
So I guess I would say we need to know what the process is and the expectations for this, because, some of us might think we can add an item to the agenda, and then I hear that we're gonna discuss it to see if it's gonna be on the agenda. And then I just need to know how you want me to proceed to chair that, if I have to ask for a majority to vote for that item to be on the agenda. So that would be my only question that I have. And so if you guys could help me with that, we need to clarify that now, otherwise we're gonna have conflict.
Yeah, I think what Angela, what I understand you're saying is, doesn't mean it's an automatic. What my understanding is, this is that if somebody wants an item on the agenda, we talk about putting it on the agenda at that meeting. So it's a consistent item, it'll always be, action item on our agenda.
who's gonna create the process or the plan? Do you want to, Tiffany, or do you want me to?
I think you could.
Okay.
And in the plan, I think it would be important with how it gets determined that it gets added on, because now it's, we don't know how to say on what goes on the agenda, and I give a timeline of the year and stuff like that, so. Is it voted on, is it, how that would work?
Well, that's what we're trying to determine right now, is that whatever item is placed on the agenda, are we going to say as a board that the majority would vote to see whether or not that gets pushed onto the agenda or not? I'm told by Jim Macy that that's typically how it happens, is that you put an item on the agenda, the majority of the board votes for it, and then if it's accepted, it gets on the agenda, if not, then it just stays there until then, whenever we would want it, or push it forward on the agenda, based off of priority or urgency of whatever that topic is.
So if we have a document that would list all of the agenda items at work that we've taken up in the next board meeting, so we don't lose track of them?
Yeah, I think that would be good, so that's what I'm asking, like, what is the process that you guys want right now, so that Ron can put this together? That's what I'm hearing, you know, that.
And the other question I got is when we have these future, the next meeting agenda, if we want to add items to the agenda, will all of the appropriate paperwork accompany that, or is it just gonna be a high level thing? So we have a lot of agenda items that come with documents. So my question is, are these future agenda items that we want to decide to possibly put on the next meeting, are they going to be accompanied with all the documentation that we need?
Up front, before we vote to put it on the agenda?
Yes.
So I think maybe some of it, but some of it, maybe not. I mean, that's a great question. That's an awesome question. So, I think you need to figure that out this week and discuss it next week. I mean, I think
The
that's.
19th?
Yeah.
For a lot of things, you don't do it. There are some topics that we talked about, where just like the rain pull up and Jeff, and you guys are doing research. And, you know, I did research, pivoting, whatever. I really did research, and so the more information we have on the front end, the better we'll be able to talk to that. If it is, we have a little bit more time to adequately talk to that. Or make a decision, yep, we have enough information, we feel comfortable as a group, let's go ahead and add it on to the next agenda.
So, from, at the very least, for the person, and that is my take on this, from the very least, the person who's proposing this agenda item should have a prepared, you know, reason for maybe, the agenda, and supporting that. And what I'm asking, or what you were clearing on, is what would be, what is our rules of preparing this, and what's the administration's role? So I don't want to tell them, work with them, this is a board thing. So I think it needs to come from us, that information. And then if we take action, and then the administration needs to take action after we take action, but not before. I think that would be helpful. And let's clarify that and discuss it here in the next meeting. I think that's just my
So,
take.
am I hearing this right, Jeff, that you don't want me to put together a proposed process for next month?
No, I do.
You
I
do.
But part of that process is, what Tony was asking was, when someone puts a specific item on there,
Yeah.
is it just like an item? Or is there going to be supporting documentation with that item? So that's just one of the small things that would be on the proposal.
Yeah.
And I mean, I suppose we can either support it by putting information up or just throwing it out there if we want to talk about it.
And I think that
working on it today, actually. I think it's called the annual business cycle. Thank you.
What was like, you're gonna table this to the 19th then?
Yes, good question. I am hearing that you want me to put some kind of draft plan together of a process on how this would work. You guys can discuss